All right. Well, welcome everyone to the Citizens Oversight Committee for Public Safety and Transactions Use Tax Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, September the 10th, and I'd like to officially call the meeting to order. With that, I will entertain roll call. Oh, no, we can't do that. No, sorry, too far ahead. Let's see here. With that, I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Mr. Price, since you were here first today, would you like to lead us?
Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I'll entertain roll call. Thank you.
Perez is absent. Ingram?
Present.
Price?
Here.
Santos?
Here.
Kindred Windsor?
Present.
We have a quorum. There are no subsequent need items, so we will go to the approval of agenda as posted or as amended.
So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion and a second to approve the agenda as posted.
Move as reported by staff.
Second that.
So moved by Price, second by Santos. Ingram?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Santos?
Yes.
Kindred Windsor?
Yes.
The motion passes. Next, we have approval of minutes, June 11, 2024, regular meeting.
If there's no discussion, I'd like to entertain a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented for the June 11th, 2024 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as listed.
Second.
Moved by Santos, second by Price. Ingram?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Santos?
Yes.
Kindred Windsor?
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we'll move on to reports and presentations from staff. Verbal financial report with Finance Director Nicholas.
Thank you, Gisela. Good evening, Chairperson and committee and city staff. What you have in your packet are two different financial reports. You have the unaudited budget status report, and you have an accounts payable transaction by account report. And you have two different ones. There's one for fiscal year 23-24 and one for fiscal year 24-25. You won't normally have these in the other three quarterly meetings, but because this is the first quarter that we've met since the end of the fiscal year, it's been provided for your reference. As a reminder that it is unaudited, we are going through audit, so there's ongoing adjusting journal entries that may affect these numbers, but it has been provided for just an overall reference for you. With that, if there's any questions on those two reports, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions from the committee?
Yes, ma'am. If I might, I have, well, I don't know if this is the proper point of the meeting here to make inquiries about expenditures, but I have several. And so
As long as those inquiries are within the parameters of the committee's work, yes.
Which they are. Okay. I have a little bit of difficulty going through the financials as, you know, the budget unaudited. It doesn't really, you know, give definition to exactly what it is. I'm sure they're all under the Measure B umbrella, but I just don't know what is what on here. I guess, you know, that's my third grade education coming out. But nonetheless, I have other inquiries here. And let's see, where do I want to start here? The leases and under the public safety transaction tax, rents and leases, enterprise FM trust, is that for the vehicles? Okay.
Mr. Price, can you please tell me what page you're on when you're looking?
Oh, I'm sorry. What I've done is, these are warrants off of the council meetings. Let's see. 7-8, special department expenditure, rogue fitness for $4,881.30. Is that,
What page is that?
well, it's from the warrants list. But it's for rogue fitness. Does anybody have any idea what that
I
was?
think that's the fire department wellness program.
Okay,
And there was another larger purchase through a different vendor as well for weight equipment, which I mentioned at the last meeting and preparation of those purchases.
right. And I had that one also noted here. There's also, where is it? Tri-county flooring under the public safety tax. Grand total of $10,432.96. Is that fire department also? Who is that under?
What's the account number?
At PD for the detectives annex.
Okay. That's, oh man, I can't even read my own stuff here, it's so small. Okay. Let's see, Merced Roofing, under the public safety tax, $9,475. Anyone?
What's the date of your warrant? That might help me match it up on ours.
829?
If I may, under the description, it says Police Department ADA compliant.
Okay, that's,
That vendor itself through me. Roofing is the vendor itself through me. That was going to be part of my report, Jim. So
Okay.
if you'd like explanations when it comes to all of that, I was
I'm just going through the list that I have.
yeah. That is also part of the detectives annex.
Okay. Where's the next one here? The Muscle Fitness, Bobby, I guess that was the other one you were talking about, $11,413.31. Okay. Is that for weight equipment?
Correct. Weight equipment, physical fitness equipment. We have a full tower, cables, squat rack that was all purchased. Again, that was just under health and wellness and improvement of, quality of the
Right.
firefighters at the stations.
Okay, and we already went over that one. Okay, anyway. Okay, so I bring those up to the committee and to staff. At the last meeting, or one of the meetings leading up to today, I raised a question about the expenditures such as those and how they pertain to public safety. I mean, under the measure itself. Measure B, it says public safety. So under one that I had questioned, and at the time Greg Thompson was here, was about $4,800 that went towards painting the fire station. And he had told me at that time that it was an authorized expenditure, which got my attention. So I went to the ordinance and I read it a couple of times, went through it a couple of times, and I can't find anything that says facilities or anything else. All it has here, and this is on page 9 of ordinance, let's see, 1050, CS 1050. and it's under the public, purpose of the public safety services. And it says obtaining, furnishing, well, this is in two parts, obtaining, furnishing, operating, and/or maintaining police protection equipment or apparatus, paying for salaries, benefits of police protection personnel, and such other police protection service expenses as are deemed necessary by the council. And the same language also applies to the fire department. But I don't see under any of that where it says anything about facilities. And I made the point when I raised this before that the general fund with the line item under public safety should be where these expenditures come from. And the ordinance, I think, kind of bears that out. That if you're going to do all these things, and that's fine, but painting the firehouse and weight equipment for the firefighters, you know, and roofing stuff and whatever, it doesn't spell out in the ordinance for facilities. It's for equipment and for personnel and the benefits and salaries. So, you know, again, I go back to, as a body for oversight of the taxpayers' dollars, it is my opinion that those expenditures that I just listed should be coming under general fund out of public safety money there and the light items for the appropriate agency, police or fire. That's my comments. Thanks.
So I want to thank Chief Ayuso and Chief Salvador for, when I got the first email, I did reach out to Chief Ayuso and ask a couple questions regarding some of the similar items, and he was able to provide me an update. And I would encourage any members to do the same if we have any questions regarding that, because it did provide some insight for me regarding some of the repairs for the fire stations. I know that both stations are pretty old, and with additional staffing, which was part of the oversight and Measure B funds, that those repairs were made. So I appreciate the information that was provided. Chief Ayuso did provide an update for physical fitness equipment at the last meeting. So that does fall under, I respectfully disagree, Mr. Price, because that does fall under equipment for fire department personnel, as it is one of the standards for physical fitness for firefighters. As far as stations and station repairs, I think that's where we leave it up to the individuals that are making those decisions. And if we have questions, we ask the questions. So I encourage any of us to ask those questions. As the president of Measure B, when that was being passed, I committed to the public that I would definitely ask those questions if there was any that came up. So I appreciate the information I was provided. I had some questions regarding some of the Amazon purchases and things like that because they did fall under fleet. And I will say that I was very impressed with the responses that I got, because in the end, it was cost savings for the city, which I think anywhere we have cost savings in one area, we provide funding for a different area within the city. So I appreciate answering my phone calls. I know Chief Ayuso was on his day off, but I really encourage any one of us to do that if we have any questions.
No questions.
Chairperson, can I just make one comment too, just for the committee, and also if there's any viewers at home that are watching, so they know that the AP transaction report that we implemented at the last meeting has all that warrant information that is in there, so they're not having to go to separate council agenda packets. So it is included in there.
I have one question that was going to pertain just to our current status of public safety funds that have been coming in. Are we looking good as far as on track? I know we initially anticipated $4 million a year. How are we looking as far as those expenditures?
Yeah, so far there has not been any anomalies to raise any red flags. Even though sales tax is kind of leveling off, the amount that we're still receiving is falling in line with our estimated budgeted amounts, and we tend to budget a little conservatively, we think realistic, but a little conservatively. And then if we get extra, that's great, but we definitely don't want to have to adjust our budgets down too much. So far we're okay.
Perfect, thank you.
I would just like to say that I do support Mr. Price's concerns to the degree that at times it is difficult to determine what is capital improvement versus the actual expenditure for public safety needs. This is the first meeting of the beginning of the fiscal year period. Perhaps it would be nice to have some type of list of approved expenditures, that council did approve for public safety under this particular measure. That would probably give us a little bit more insight as to exactly what expenditures we are reviewing for this fiscal year period. At times it does get a little difficult to determine, what would be considered capital improvement, what would be considered a real public safety expenditure in the way of the personnel related expenses as what we tend to interpret this tax measure to be for. So it would just be helpful to have just some additional resources.
Madam Chair, if I might, the thing, well, at the last city council meeting, and I apologize, I lost the paper, but I had a printout, and I can't recall anyway, it listed in there an expenditure of $150,000 for flooring for one of the firehouses. I believe it was 41. And as I noted, there's another one here for flooring. These are bucks that add up. And as I referenced in the ordinance, I'm not against doing these improvements necessarily. It's the expenditures. That's it. That's all I'm bringing up is about the proper fund that these projects should be expended from. And to me, a line item from police or fire out of the general fund is appropriate in many of these cases. Now, I'll agree with Gabe here. Perhaps we can go with the weight equipment as, I think it's kind of split here just a little bit, but the weight equipment for the fire guys, okay, we'll call that equipment. But in my interpretation, equipment is more like, all of the equipment that is on the engines themselves and what have you. But in any case, flooring is not. I'm not convinced that it is. And for roofing and these types of things, anything that really pertains to the facilities. Now, the only exception I think I would make to that is I know that you had an issue with the doors on one of the firehouses being able to come up and let you guys go on a call. I would say that definitely is something that could be looked at, but again, the expenditure could come out of the general fund, but it needs to be addressed immediately. Something like that is something that just can't go on, and a sole source provider for that repair would absolutely need to be acquired. But again, it's my issue is the funding, and that's why I'm setting up here. Being the big mouth here is because it's taxpayer money, and I'm one that is extremely fiscally conservative, and I don't want to see waste or inappropriate expenditures.
Ms. Nichols, I'm sorry, were you wanting to respond? No, I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay, so we'll be moving item 4 up with verbal fire department update. Cal Fire Battalion Chief Ayuso.
All right. Good evening, Chair and Committee. Appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening. I'll give you a brief update and try to touch on a few of those topics that you brought up, Mr. Price. And if you guys have any questions at the end, I'd be happy to answer. Starting off with call volume, I printed up sheets for you each to reference our calls year to date, broken down by stations. That gives you the call type, number of calls, percentages, and kind of a thorough breakdown between the two houses. So if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer. Total, we're at 3,106 calls combined. That's 1,899 out of Station 41 and just over 1,200 at Station 42. On equipment update, and we talk equipment, fire apparatus, our Type 6 engine that we ordered last fiscal year, I reached out to High Tech to get an update on where we're at. We did get the chassis. I know I had mentioned to you last meeting. They're still waiting on the poly company for the buildup aspect. So buildup is the back portion where the compartments of the fire engine are at. Once that comes in, they can hit the ground running with doing the rest of the fabrications and get that completed. And we're hopeful that we'll see that before next summer so we can start utilizing it. The Type 1 engine that we had discussed and was approved on the adopted 24-25 budget did go to council in August, was approved. We've moved forward with Ms. Nicholas has been outstanding with assisting and getting the documentation together for the financing company to move forward with that. We'll be going, myself and Captain Perez, to South Dakota September 24th to the 26th to do a pre-construction spec, and everything off of that apparatus is based off of the same specs as Engine 41, which is our most recent purchase in the fleet before the Type 6. I would like to add there was a significant price increase due to inflation. Just from our last Type 1 that was purchased, it was nearly $400,000 increase in 4 years. It's astonishing. But I would like to add there was some concerns about the type of apparatus that we're purchasing. Are we purchasing the top of the line piece of equipment? We're not. This is around your mid-grade. It gives us a good enough quality of engine to be reliable enough to send out of county and not have major issues without being your top of the line Pierce or something to that effect. And then it's also definitely not your low bid apparatus. So it is right in the middle. It's consistent with what Merced County also runs. So parts and that sort of thing are a lot easier to come by. Lastly, on the equipment, with the purchase and upfitting and be able to put the new command vehicles in service, I know I kept harping on, hey, by having reliable fleet, whether that's utility vehicles or fire apparatus to respond to incidents, we're able to start trying to gain some revenue back for the city. Well, we put the command vehicles in service. This is the first summer. So we have 2 reliable utility vehicles now to send out, and both of them have been out majority of the summer. We've already gone over $30,000 in what will be revenue back to the city. Something else I'd like to add, because it is questions that have come up multiple times. When we do send equipment out of county, whether that's a fire engine or those utility vehicles, for example, those utility vehicles, my personnel are going out on overhead assignments. So they're supporting a state mission in the finance department or logistics section, so on and so forth. And when they're there, those pickups earn $265 a day plus an admin fee. It adds up to about $2,000 a day, or I'm sorry, a week for the city. The personnel that goes up there is all paid for through the incident. Any backfilling that we may have to do at the city level is also coded, overtime is coded behind the incident. So it is of no extra or additional cost to the city. The only time that we would see any associated costs is they do come wet, meaning that they have to make it to the incident with fuel. There's fuel trucks and that sort of thing set up on the incidents, but should they need fuel on the way to the incident and they can't make it, they use the city Visa cards to pay for it. So no other costs associated to sending that equipment out to the city. Some updates on purchases. I think we hit pretty hard on the weight equipment. My standpoint with that, and I'll just leave it at this, is the health and wellness of my employees means the most to me. So I mentioned that in the last meeting. I feel if there are concerns that we can have those discussions before, and I made a promise to you that I would try to start doing my best to project out for 3 months on what those purchases may be. That was done. Some other things that weren't brought up that probably weren't specified as far as details in there, but I'll touch on them. Is we purchased VHF decks for the 2 new command vehicles so that we have a third VHF radio, as well as licensing for capability to talk to PD. That's just for the 2 command vehicles. And then we had some other miscellaneous small item purchases, including ladder belt, hand tools, turnout repairs, and then the one that Mr. Santos had reached out about was the headlights. And just for clarity, that was an Amazon purchase. We had headlights go out on the new engine. The replacement, we've already replaced those once, and they're like a $400 per headlight purchase. My crews that work on engine 42, we had tried out some Amazon ones, and I think we got the set for around $80, if I'm not mistaken, for 2. And they like them. They work fine. They've lasted. So we ended up buying 2 sets of those. So we ended up with, 4 headlights, a backup set. It's kind of a minor purchase, but I appreciate, the questions and concerns as far as these things go. And I agree, if you're not asking questions, that, there would be a concern for me as well. That was pretty much in detail what we had as far as purchases since the last meeting. Future, I would like to build a little bit of clarity on this topic. In the adopted budget for 24-25, it is specifically stated bathroom ADA station improvements. What is that? That is improvement of, so we had staffing level improvements. We have some infrastructure issues at Station 41, and we need to adapt to the increased staffing levels with showers. And there is some architectural work involved with that. We've been working with Justin. We had some discussions recently about trying to move forward with that. I don't know exactly what is that going to entail until we can look at it. But we did have, last year, we had some mold issues at that station. They got in, they were able to do tile in 1 shower. There's only 2 at that facility. And they identified that there was actually mold building on the other side of the wall where the second shower is too. So there's a multitude of things with any construction like that. We have a certain percentage of upgrades that we need to do to bring ADA compliance up as well. In closing on the public education, and last is, we've had several different events over the last few months. 4th of July, we've got the 9/11 event tomorrow. I encourage anybody to come out if you're available. Atwater Night Out on October 8th. We're going to be kicking off the toy drive here soon. I know it's still early, but we want to try to get a jump start on that. So you'll start seeing some interaction as far as, our tri-tip dinner and things that we work on with our PD to move forward with that. Bloss Bowls towards the end of October or mid-October, so that's coming up quick as well. So just a few of our public education updates. And then the last thing I'll touch on the fire marshal aspect, kind of a sad deal. Chief Lopes has accepted a transfer to Merced County. He's going to take an operations position. It is a step in a direction that he wants to go. So we're happy for him. He's still going to be local, and he'll be of great assistance to us in the transitional period to find somebody else. And I'm confident we'll find somebody very highly likable and is going to do just as good of a job. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Chief Ayuso, just a couple of quick follow-up questions. Your office tech position, that was filled, correct? So congratulations on that. That was a big accomplishment for
Yes.
Oversight.
Sorry, that
Measure
was
B
one
funds.
thing I forgot to add. She started last week. Last week was her full first week. She's doing outstanding. She's catching on to things really well. Been of great assistance for both me and Chief Lopes.
And I know with Fire Prevention Month, next month coming up, that's going to be a big hit for a lot of the Measure B funds and public awareness. If you could, I'm not sure if you know the dates for both Fire Station 41 and 42, the build dates. What?
Station 41 was built in 1980, and Station 42 was 2006.
Perfect. Thank you.
I got a comment, Chief. Just to your guys, it was heads up on shopping around and look for the best value for equipment and things like that. Doesn't always have to be OEM parts and, pay the maximum amount for things like that, items like that, where eventually that'll nickel and dime you to death. So it was heads up on them to find a replacement headlight. And yeah, that's just good thinking. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
How many guys have you sent out on strike teams here lately? You got a lot of fires going on down there in SoCal.
So on the city side, we have not sent any engines out this summer yet. We recently had engine 42 and 241 go temporarily out of service. So having that, we do need to ensure when we do send equipment, as far as the city side, we still have equipment to backfill to cover the city. So to answer your question, out of the city, we don't have any that have gone. It's been all out of the utility pickups on overhead assignments. But on the state side, they've sent 3 out of our Madera, Mariposa, Merced unit, or currently 3 out right now.
Also, the other thing I wanted to know or ask about was the new dispatch that's going to be located out of Castle. Is that going to include you guys as well?
Our dispatch is
Mariposa?
Yep, Mariposa dispatches for all of our agreements within the Madera, Mariposa, Merced unit. So that's part of our contract, the city's contractor agreement with CAL FIRE. Is they pay for a portion of communications operators, so we pay for 1.5 out of the city of Atwater.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Thank you.
So now verbal police department update with Police Chief Salvador and Police Lieutenant Novetsky.
Good evening, Chair and committee. William Novetsky, I'm your police lieutenant. And tonight I'm going to provide the first part of our update, and then I'm going to turn it over to the police chief. Our department is average for the calls for service right now. We're at approximately a little bit over 20,000 calls for service. We generally average about 700 incidents a week. So we're right where we should be. One of the things I do want to talk about is some of the new technology we'll be displaying for you tonight, and also what we're currently utilizing in the sense of a project we just wrapped up. And how that's important is, as Jim was talking about, of how it relates to public safety, is even during the installation, it recovered a stolen vehicle that was located in our industrial area during installation as they were still testing it out. And I'll kind of cover all that as I do just a quick presentation, because Chief Salvador would like to talk also. Personnel-wise, we are fully staffed to what we've been allocated, and 3 of our 4 academy trainees have completed their training. They're out on their own, and 1 has about a month left of training, so we're very excited about that. We currently have another recruit in the academy doing very well at this point, with a slated graduation date in November. We just hired another dispatcher that's going to be starting Thursday for us, so that will take us to capacity in our comm center. So we're happy with that. In this market of recruiting and retention, I can say we're doing very well in that aspect. So that kind of gives you an update for personnel. Equipment-wise, we're utilizing our 2 new vehicles. They are outfitted. We're just waiting for computers, but we've taken them out in the field, so you might see the all-black design with the throwback. It's kind of like an off-white and blue color. Or kind of what I want to say is it's kind of a new take on an old design that kind of brings back a historical component to the police department. So again, thank you. Those vehicles are much needed, and they also have our new tech. So I'll go ahead and show the new technology before I turn it over to the chief, and then I can take any questions. Yeah, switch spots. How do I bring that back? So what we're looking at, it's called Axon Respond, and this is part of our body cam and our vehicle real-time information. So what you're looking at is real-time information. This is something we can look at. This will show the cars where they're at and what they're doing. And so throughout the city, you could see we're actually getting ready for shift change, so they should primarily be back at the office. But you can actually click. Oh, I went to the other screen. When you actually click on that 3, I was clicking on it, threw it to another screen, but it will show the cars where they're at, they're identified. And what this does is gives us real time. So if they turn on their light bars or there's a specific incident we program in, it's going to give us an alert. This will show, if you click on the icon, you can, if their camera is activated, you can actually remote in and get real-time information of what that looks like. So you can actually see the call live, and that helps with a tactical response. But that's a huge upgrade to our tactical capabilities. What that allows for is a allocation of resources, whether we have to direct in fire or additional police units or a tactical unit to go in. They know what they're looking at. We can set a car up, and how that can play out for public safety is, let's say we're on a critical incident and we want to leave a car there with the camera running facing the incident where somebody's not in that car. We can actually then have a live feed on that incident. So when a tactical team, we're not putting somebody with their body cam facing the incident. What that does, that allows a real-time look into what we're dealing with, so we can have really good tactical information, if you will, to help deal with that incident. This is actually my screen. So what this looks like, this would have like LPR. That's our license plate reading technology. We're able to search. We're able to enter plates. How that affects public safety also with this equipment is a car, it's once it's entered in the system, whether it's a stolen vehicle or a missing person or critical reach alert or something, once our cars drive by them, they're able to scan that plate, and it'll be able to tell us, hey, this car has a want on it. That's something that upgrades where just recently, using that similar technology, we were able to apprehend one of our homicide suspects down in Southern California. It's linked to what a current system we're using called Flock, which is a system that works off these technologies like real-time crime centers. So I wanted to kind of show, and hopefully it'll agree with me here, but pretty much what it does, it allows us to, but I wanted to give you a insight of what our cars look like in the video. Let me bring one that I had it queued up earlier, but so I wanted to kind of show you what the camera feed looks like when it actually records. It's kind of a fishbowl, wide angle. It takes a second, but as you can see, when the officer, this is what the officers are able to record. This is in conjunction with their body cameras, so they also have their body camera on. Now this is just them going to the yard, and so it's not really revealing anything else of a case, but I'll be able to kind of show you the kind of what the clarity of what we're dealing with is when we're in our vehicles. And so when the lights are on, the microphones are on, and so you can kind of see it tells speed. Just I wanted to kind of give a quick overview of what that looks like and the technology that we're currently using. And we had dash cams years ago that I utilized, and they were very helpful back then. But as technology advances, this is light years beyond what we had before in a sense of real-time information along with our body cams. The cool thing about this is another safety feature for us is once you activate one system, it talks to the other system. And so if an officer doesn't have time to jump out of a car and hit their body cam, once they hit their vehicle camera, it will actually key their other camera. And what this also does is it links to anybody that's around them, and it will actually key everybody's camera on, so you're getting multiple angles. Because if you have an incident that's requiring something of, doing other things besides worrying about turning your camera on, it's essentially doing it for you in the sense of capturing. It's doing the thinking for you is the easiest way to kind of explain that. It's allowing us to concentrate on what we're actually dealing with instead of saying, oh, I didn't have my camera on because I was in the heat of the moment or something of that nature. It's actually, the technology allows for it to talk to each other. So it's a great feature, and we're excited to use it, and thank you for the opportunity to purchase this through the Measure B funds. That's my presentation.
Bill, I have one question for you. Where this particular video was being shot over at the corporate yard, is the system just activated like when the car is turned on, or do you have to have a light bar going? How does that work?
So general use for these is when you turn the lights on, but there's actually a button. The cameras are very small. They're only about this big and about that size. There's just two buttons, and so you can hit it manually if you want to capture something. And to kind of hit on that, thank you for the question. I was kind of condensing the presentation. The officers can see on their computer also what they're able to see everything in front of them. So it's actually on their computer screen also. They can switch between our CAD system and the camera system. So these cameras are not only forward facing, but they're actually rear in the rear compartment. So if we have a transport that we're taking somebody to the jail or somewhere, we can video that. So we have that. So if somebody claims that they did XYZ or they hit my head against the cage or whatever the case may be, we have that captured. So they can manually operate that through their own camera system. Like I said, it will talk. So let's say they don't have time to turn their vehicle camera on. Once they activate their body camera, their vehicle camera will come on. So
In this particular case, so was it just manually turned on by the officer as they went over there, or
Yeah, so this might have been, I pulled this because it wasn't related to anything but this was probably either testing it out or some aspect of driving with it to kind of see, because we just deployed this technology within the last few days. So there's things that we're looking at, so we're activating them. So this is why I was able to kind of show this, because this is just seeing what it looks like, what we're going to capture, like you said, what turns it on, how sensitive is it? These are all things we're looking at. I'm still learning the system myself, because, being able to click in and say, okay, hey, I can see this officer in real time, because sometimes with our radio systems, you can't raise the officer all the time. So if they're fighting a suspect, this allows, one of the things we want to expand out to is our communication center. Once we establish where we're at, and even currently, we're working with some back infrastructure issues because this does take a lot of bandwidth to run. So we like to essentially have this where dispatch can look at what I call the respond window, and this will allow for them, if they can't raise their officer, they'll be able to see, okay, hey, they're fighting somebody, and that's a game changer in the sense of what they're dealing with. That's technology that, I wish I had when I was working just as a regular police officer on the road.
And at nighttime, is it like a FLIR system, or how does that work when it's completely dark?
It's a standard camera, but it's a very good night vision type camera. It's not like the green tint night vision, but it's very clear. You can see it's still reading plates.
what this camera system does, it's the LPR system, also the license plate reading technology, also besides the camera. So it's a 2-for-1 type deal where we're able to capture, and just using an example, we had a DUI pursuit, speeds were excessive and whatnot. We were able to get the information and put it in our system, and the vehicle was seized later in Merced. So this is able to assist us with investigations. It's able to assist us with capturing, hey, we had this shooting, this car was picked up. You might drive by a car in the nighttime. The officers are being able to have this where they can recall it, and there's checks and balances to it, of course, but this is something where, hey, that car passed through here. It gives us a lead. This gives us somewhere where we can look and say, hey, we know this car's in our city. We know this is happening. And it gives us not only the data that helps us solve cases, but this can help other agencies. Hey, these criminals aren't just, staying in each other, respective cities. They're traversing. So it allows us to really, be a real good crime fighting tool.
Did I hear you say that you're still having issues with radios with communication?
So we're still on the same sheriff's radio system that they're still in the process of upgrading that. So hopefully those issues will resolve once that new radio system goes live.
The reason I raised the question is because you and I did a ride-along together back in 2015, and you pointed out that your radio communications were hit and miss in certain cases. And lo and behold, about 30 minutes after you had told me that, we rolled on a disturbance call over their Secretary Determined area, and officer was in ahead of us and was getting information off of one of the subjects out there, and went to call it in, and it was going nowhere. And you took it and you called it in on your radio. And what was disturbing about that, and you mentioned to me when we were clearing the call, did you happen to notice the radio? Yeah, I sure as hell did. And the thing of it is that was back in 2015. Now we're at 2024, and we're still having that same problem. And I had told at that time Chief Pietro, man, if you got to get a sole source provider and this needs to be taken care of, because if you got a cop out there that's been injured, he's been shot, something, and he can't call for help, we got a real problem on our hands. And it sounds like from 2015 to now, we still got that problem.
That is correct. Like I said, we're going to go to the new radio system next, as soon as it's done, and that should resolve the problem.
Well, what's disturbing to me is we've gone through Measure V and now we're into Measure B and still got the problem. And the cops are worth more than the dollar.
Yeah, we rely on the sheriff's office for their communication system. They have similar issues, and that's hopefully, like I said, it gets resolved once the new radio system goes live.
Mr. Santos?
Lieutenant Nevesky, thank you for the update. Just to make sure I didn't miss something, is this only in our newest vehicles, or is this in the entire law enforcement fleet?
No, it's with 10 of our active vehicles. So the goal is for the officers that are on shift that they each have a car that is with a camera in the vehicle and on their person.
And then I know that recently Lieutenant Governor Bonta came out with a couple of different statements regarding being able to use certain footage for license plate readers and things like that. Does this fall outside of that, or is this?
No, we're totally in compliance.
And then last question, can you expand that out again? Does that automatically go to evidence or evidence locker? Because it looks like the date is different.
Yeah, so this one, it looks like a test one. This isn't reflective. So what happens, good question. What happens with this technology is This is automatically uploaded. So the cameras are docked at the end of our shifts. So our body cams, when they come back to the office, they dock these. These are actually, we carry a modem inside our vehicle now, which actually increased our capabilities for our wireless technology. We were having some issues with our CAD system because of the connectivity with the vendor. This actually helped resolve that issue. So that allows us to have a stronger connection into the car. So what this is this is run off a Cat6 cable and to a modem to the actual computer, which will allow a automatic transfer to the car data. The car data will actually be downloaded before the body cam for the industry, unless somebody goes back to the office and downloads their camera. Let's say they want to get the, that automatically updated for the end of their shift. But this, once they film this is automatically uploaded.
Perfect, thank
Mr.
you.
Ingram?
Thank you, Lieutenant. This is a interesting piece of technology. But my question is, does it just passively pick up license plates, or does the officer have to key it in or actively prompt it to start reading? Is it just, is he cruising through town and just passively picking up, sweeping for license plates?
Yes. So the way this technology works is the officer is, once they log into the system, it is automatically scanning plates as it passes. It's very similar to what our cameras are currently at Five Corners and over at on Schaefer, where a car drives by it. It's just capturing the plate. It's not, you're not seeing the driver. Very similar to our current technology. It's just a mobile version of that. And the officer, like I said, if they want to record something, they can manually record, but the license plate reading is going on in the background.
Very cool. Thank you.
So a question that I'd like to ask, using this particular item as an example for this committee, understanding that the tax measure B funds were used to help, with this purchase, does the police department look for other sources of funding, such as, DOJ or State of California, to where the tax measure funds are, the utilization of the tax measure funds are minimized? Or do you look to the tax measure funds to fully pay for something like this?
So what we did with this particular, this is,
And this is just an example. I'm not saying you do
Sure.
that for every project. But.
yeah, and it depends on the project in the sense of what is grant related. So let's say we have vests, that body armor grant or something of that nature. Now, what we would do on something like that is, if we had those funds, and then we could utilize, let's say, either the public safety tax or the general fund or whatever funding source on that. So if there's another source that could help with like a match, then we could look at that aspect of it. But like, we'll use this example. So we were able to get a really good deal with this in the sense of how we packaged everything. And so credit to Chief Salvador working with Axon and getting that, the package deal and getting a fixed cost. That allows us, for even in a public safety tax, or even if we had to merge two funding sources together, that allows us to really identify, this is how much we're spending each year instead of having a variable cost. And so that's where, could you do that? Yes, it's project based, but it's really, grants also come with some level of commitment of some type of thing. We have to be able to meet those, whether it's a match or some type of condition to get that. And so something like this, I'm just using this project per se, this is something that we can show, just as Jim was saying, what is the public need of this? What is the public safety component of this? This is something we can take data from and show that on a fixed cost, this is something that it would be totally within the scope of Measure B.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Nebesky, just one last question. With our neighboring agencies, law enforcement agencies, is this compatible with anything they're using, like our sheriff's department or neighboring Merced City PD?
Yes, most agencies in this area use Axon. And so we're able to, as we were talking about with the flock system, a lot of agencies are either using flock or a similar component to flock. And once this data is essentially uploaded or shared, it's compatible where we can, the DA's office requests this data. We're able to transfer this data to the DA's office for evidence prosecution. Chief Salvador has talked about this before of, the video says it all. And so now adding this component where you might not pick something up on a body cam, you're allowed to kind of sharing this data, this camera system alone, adding to the cars, it will help other agencies also. And so it is compatible.
Perfect, thank you.
Chief?
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the board. I asked to go last for a particular reason. One, I would like to thank each and every one of you that are sitting here today on the board for your commitment to the city of Atwater and to ensure that the will of the voters is fulfilled. I worked with Committee Member Santos on this current ballot measure, and it's one of the city's crowning achievements. You should be very, very proud of that. This is my last committee meeting with you. I will be retiring at the end of the year. So I wanted to take a few minutes to kind of look back and look at how did we spend your money? Jim, you and I have a fundamental disagreement about the building and how it's not equipment or equipment. I respect your opinion. I happily don't agree with it. And the reason why I don't is 25% of the people that make a police department go live in this building. They work out of this building. So to me, the building is a piece of equipment. And to answer Commissioner Santos's question, this is the oldest public safety building in the city. It was built in the 60s. The items that we used Measure B for this spring and summer was to upgrade the building, to make the building feasible, to give the city time. This building was never built to essential services standards, and it is not seismically upgraded. Therefore, the minor repairs to the flooring, and I invite all the commissioners to come by. We'll show you the new detectives bay and the new interview rooms. Those things buy the city 5 years to plan, finance, which this ballot measure may have to help do, a new public safety building for the city of Atwater. It's not a question of whether you need that building, it's when can you get it built. Now, we've spent Measure B and Measure H money over the past 5.5 years. I've been chief of police in the following manners. We have refreshed a fleet that when I took over in 2019 had an average age of 15 to 17 years and over 250,000 miles per car. Those cars now, average life spent on the street is under 5 years, and our average mileage is under 75,000 miles. This particular calendar year, we, like Chief Ayuso said, we made the deal of a lifetime. We bought 2 brand new cars out of the state of Ohio for 2020 pricing. They were fully equipped. The lieutenant aptly described how we've got them in the field. We circumvented the supply chain problems that we'd been having for the past 4 years, those vehicles are now in service. Measure B. The Axon program started in 2020 as a transparency program. It has gone from transparency to a full digital evidence suite that allows us to, as the lieutenant aptly put, allows us to take a look into a situation as it is processing, but we now process that evidence, store that evidence securely off-site. It is disaster hardened and allows for digital transfers. Measure B paid for that. Conductive energy weapons, the taser. 3 different upgrades over my tenure as chief of police. Measure B paid for that. We just had a discussion about radio communications. Measure B paid for the full upgrade of all the radios in the cars, and just is going to start to pay for the full upgrade of portable radios to every officer. They have that deployment just finished in the last 30 days. Unfortunately, we do not control the infrastructure. The sheriff's office has got a $25 million program. The equipment is here. They are in the process of installation. That program will have 11 sites scattered throughout the county and will improve radio communications for all of public safety, not just Atwater PD. The sheriff's office has the same problems we do, and so does the emergency medical system. This system will take that and really improve upon that. Measure B paid for the firearms upgrades in 2022-23. Measure B has done things that if we didn't have it, ladies and gentlemen, we're not sitting here having this conversation. We're having a very, very different one. I want to thank the finance director for her leadership. I want to thank the city manager for his leadership, and the former city manager for hers. We took, with the help of this committee and the members on it, and Jim, I have always appreciated your comments at the counter. We took in the last 5.5 years, we took a dysfunctional oversight system and we made it a functional one. And that's the credit to you and your volunteerism. I brag about the city when I leave this city and its commitment to public safety. I've never been more supported in my entire career. Now, we've disagreed, and that's life. But in 2019, I put together a PowerPoint presentation about the things I wanted to do while I was the police chief here. And we talked about infrastructure and vehicles and radios and computers. And with your support as a community, we accomplished every single thing we set out to do in that strategic plan. We did it cost effectively. We did it within our budgets. We even gave money back. So over that, I'm extremely proud of the work my staff, this committee, council, city staff has done over the past 5.5 years as your chief. We have challenges ahead, make no mistake, but we have always spent that money with one overriding value and principle. It was to protect the citizens of Atwater, whether it be fire, EMS, or policing. And that is the challenge I leave you to carry on. Police chiefs rent time, right? And I've enjoyed my nearly 6 years here. If you would like to take a tour of detectives, it is complete. We went in and we took care of the electrical work in there, and we took care of ADA upgrades in there. We have the only video conferencing conference room in the city, fully equipped video conferencing for the next generation of emergency operations. And yeah, Measure B was a huge part of it. And Chairman, to answer your question about grant funding versus Measure B, the general fund, I'll leave it with this. And I use this in public, and Chris, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it again. I use this in public all the time. If you look at a dollar bill, and we all spend dollar bills, the police department gets paid on July 1st of every fiscal year, right? Our dollar bill has 5 distinct components to it. 67 cents of the dollar bill is the general fund. 25% or 25 cents of the dollar bill is the ballot measure. About 8% of the dollar bill is the community facilities districts out near Buac Colony High School. About a penny of it is the abandoned vehicle fund, and less than 1/10 of 1%, 1/10 of 1 penny, is grant sources from the Department of Justice, state, federal, FEMA. It is not a large source of revenue because Atwater is not a large town. We don't compete in those arenas for that type of money. I've tried, have not been very successful at it. We're one of those tweener cities. If we were below 15,000 population, the federal government would be lining up armored cars that we could go apply for. If we were over 100,000 in population, they'd be lining up armored cars again. But we're not. We're in that tweener population piece. But again, I will conclude by saying thank you very much. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your questions. I appreciate the conversation because that's how we make things better. But please make no mistake. We're here to spend the public's money. I spend the public's money better than I spend my own. That's always been my philosophy. I'm always looking for the deal. I have the bids on every single one of those flooring projects and ADA projects, and we're going to be bidding out dispatch projects for the dispatch move in the first quarter and a half of 2025. That's going to be a big deal for the city of Atwater. It's going to improve public safety in ways that we can only imagine. So with that, if you have any particular questions for me about the projects that we've are closing out as I conclude my tenure here with the city of Atwater, I'd be more than happy to take them.
Thank you.
So now we have verbal update by City Manager Hom.
I'd like to thank everyone for sacrificing your time and effort in reviewing the materials and coming to the meeting and being prepared. Also, thank you to our department heads and everyone that's put in a lot of thought into this, and also to our taxpayers for making this all possible. I don't have anything really to report. I'm excited to be here, and I'm happy to help and support where I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments from the public. At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. You may state your name and address for the record, however, it is not required. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and or placed on a future agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes.
Are there any public comments? No? Seeing none, we'll close the the comments from the public portion. Thank you.
Committee matters.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to Chief Salvador and congratulations on your upcoming retirement. Very well deserved. Thank you, really. Thank you from not just this committee, but as a community member. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome Mr. Holm, our new city manager. Thank you. Tonight was my first night meeting you, but thank you for taking this on. We appreciate that, and I do look forward to working with you as we move forward. Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a couple of last minute items here. I didn't see, I've been watching the city council meetings on video. Do we have an update on Citygate strategic plan or at least a date on when that information is going to be publicized? I know it was one of the things that Measure B.
Yes. We just had meetings on the strategic plan, or not the strategic plan, the public safety master plan, right before the Labor Day holidays. That project is on track. We're waiting for the final cost estimates from all the analysis, the gap analysis that was done. I would expect to probably see that report done sometime in the first quarter of next year.
And congratulations on your retirement, Chief. That's what made me think of that.
Thank you.
Making sure that you get that sealed out before you leave us. Welcome, Mr. Holm. The city's grateful to have you. Just want to make sure we thank our public safety individuals as we approach tomorrow's 9/11 date. Make sure that everybody goes home at the end of their shift. It's really nice to, again, thank the public. As the president for the Measure B committee, I'm proud to say that we are moving in the right direction and seeing things exactly as we had discussed. I welcome questions. I appreciate all the directors and chiefs for being able to answer those questions as they come up. Please don't take it as anybody second guessing. It's just, would rather get those clarifications. And I welcome the public to reach out to any one of us at any time if they have any questions regarding the funding and how it's being utilized. Also want to just at least acknowledge that September is National Suicide Prevention Month. It is an unfortunate statistic amongst our public safety and our community, so we want to make sure that we're at least remembering those measures to prevent suicide amongst all age groups. It's mind-boggling on those age groups that it's impacting. And again, congratulations, Chief Salvador, on your retirement. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Chief, I wanted to also congratulate you on your retirement. I'm jealous, man. I'm ready to go, trust me. The only thing I would add to that, and with respect to your comment about, the detectives room and things like that, that you consider that as equipment as well. I agree with you. I think that is a good analogy. What I would suggest, and maybe I'd suggest this to the city manager, is that the ordinance be reviewed and the paragraph that I cited maybe be amended to include language to the effect of facilities as necessary or as approved or whatever, but something to that effect would be really good, and then there wouldn't be any question about that. But I think it would still carry the same type of scrutiny that would make it an approval process to make sure that those sort of things are a good expenditure. And also, perhaps maybe also while looking at that portion is also, maybe giving this committee a little more teeth and being able to make recommendations. That's one of the things that when I was on MCAG, we had an oversight committee for Measure V, and they make recommendations directly to the committee, which I think is, I don't know why we don't do that. I think that all of us here are reasonably intelligent adults, and we can come up with ideas and things like that. And we should be able to make recommendations pertaining to equipment and personnel and what have you that pertain to Measure B and the funds available. So anyhow, that's my 2 cents, and good luck, Chief. I hope that everything works out real well for you.
All right, well, with that, I'd like to call the meeting adjourned at 6:47 p.m. Great. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Good evening.